Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Francesco Abbruzzino, and you would not believe it. Forgot my headphones again. Hold on. I was distracted. Whoa. I got distracted responding to some Facebook stuff and on all my pages, which tells me I'm managing way too many pages because I get too distracted too easily. Today is Friday, the 21st. And this is the Francesco Abbruzzino live news and talk show. This is a worldwide transmission of the TVSN network, a minor threat production. We are heading into the weekend. This is a Monday through Friday show from 3 to 5. Reruns are constant from 24/7. The call-in number, if you wish to call in, is 941-584-4874, and we can talk about whatever your concerns are. It's free for all Friday. Let's see. We're going to start off with the inspirational video first, and then we'll take it from there. We're going to cover different things, the Ninth Amendment, a situation that occurred here with the Northport Police, a town hall meeting that in trying to promote doing stuff at the local level, to unrest in the Ukraine and militarization of the police. We got some EPA bullying farmer stuff, some gun control stuff, vaccines, all kinds of good stuff. I am going to try to get through this stack today so that I have a fresh stack to start with tomorrow when I prep for Monday's show. So let's go ahead and get to that inspirational video and take it from there. Let's see. See, I have it queued up this time.
It was September 30th, 2008, when the doctor came in and he just said that my mom had a cardiac arrest. They told me that I had to make a decision. They said we can do A, we could try to revive her, but we'll probably break every bone in her body and she's feeling all the pain. Or B, we'll just let life take its course and we'll let her pass in peace. So frantically, I had a minute to decide what I had to decide, either life or this. And, I was told not to let the decision that I was going to make at that moment haunt me for the rest of my life. So I made the decision to let her go. I remember I just laid at her side and I was just weeping like crazy. I told her everything I was grateful for. I told her, thank you so much for how you raised me. And the sad thing about it is that was the only time I did it. I never did it before. I never told my mom how much I loved her. I never told her anything until that moment. After that, I remember I kissed her and I said goodbye. I went inside the waiting room. I heard all these noises again, but no pitter patter of the feet, no nothing, And I remember I looked it up in him. I was like, "Is it over?" And he said, "Yeah, it's over." To this day, she's always in the back of my mind every time I do my schoolwork. Everything I do, because she just taught me how to love, how to be kind, how to be real, how to be genuine towards people, live every second as if you're your last, and always help the poor. Live simply so other people can simply live.
Okay, that was a pretty good inspirational video. Hopefully a lot of you found inspiration in there. It has me reflect a lot of times just on myself. My mom and I never really had a great relationship, but I love her to death. I don't talk to her a lot because I can't stand talking on the phone. She lives in Northport, and I have not seen her probably in over a year, and she's not in the best of health. So it's probably something I, as a son, should make my way down there. Mom, if you're listening, sorry, I love you. Same with, I got a great stepmom that was married to my dad in Italy for, 30 years or something like that. Marie, she's great too. We don't tell that enough to our parents, unfortunately. I try to say it all the time to my daughters because they mean the world to me and my wife. But hopefully this thing inspires you to go out and make a call to your mom and just say, hey, Mom, I love you. Reach out or send her an email or just say whatever you want to do on it. All right, so continuing on with going over our Bill of Rights, and I know you people probably get sick of me saying this, but we only got one more time of saying it until we reach the 10th Amendment where I plan on stopping. First of all, for those that are new, we're averaging, this show will pull in somewhere, I think yesterday was around 2,300 on the numbers, 2,300 to 10,000 views a day, which isn't bad for a show that's been on and off for the past month. Hopefully it'll continue to grow. I am looking for sponsors. All the money I get from sponsors, I'm putting back into marketing because basically everything's paid for, and I'm work for myself. I do the technical, the research, and the hosting of the show. So I'm going to just dump all the money back into marketing of the program, which in turn will market your product for you. So it's a win-win for everybody. Back to the amendments. I don't know how I got sidetracked. We're covering the 9th Amendment, and I'm doing this basically because I feel like a lot of individuals have lost their rights, and the government takes advantage of us whenever they can because nobody understands their rights to the fullest extent. So we've covered each amendment, and today we're on the 9th Amendment, and this is the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other retained by the people. What this basically means, because I'm looking at that and saying, what do you mean? This means that other rights than the ones listed in the Constitution may exist, and just because they are not listed does not mean they cannot be violated. Again, guys, it's happening all too often where our rights are being violated on a day in, day out basis. Unfortunately, somewhat this town hall meeting I'm going to cover basically covers those rights that we're going to run into in this sad story about this officer that committed suicide last night. Also plays into some rights that we have as citizens trying to get some FOIA information. When this first came out, I put something on my page, and I was pretty sad. I was a little upset that it's always a tragedy when someone passes away. It's be it suicide or not. And I posted something on my local site, which many of you should know by now. It's a major media source here in the Venice, Northport, Inglewood area. Basically, my page is it for the media. It gets more views than the local Herald newspaper, and probably better views and readership and fanship, if you want to call it that, than the local station, WWSB, or SNN, local news. So basically, I'm on many of these things. I got a lead. I'm not going to say from who. And they told me who the officers were involved in the sex scandal, which is down in the city of Northport, which I've talked about a few times. I didn't want to list their names directly on the site, so I said, here's some very informative information on exactly who was involved in and it was a LEO Affairs, leoaffairs.com. And on the Northport, you had a bunch of officers on there, and they were talking about the two individuals that were involved, the two officers that were involved in the affair. Ends up about, 2 or 3 hours later, this other local advocate here in town, John Patton, put out on his site that those were the same two officers that were in the courtroom for some unknown reason, so everybody put one together. On the Leo site, they said that the local paper, someone kept posting on their blog on their site that it was these two officers, but they kept deleting it and they weren't sure why. So when I heard about the suicide, I felt a little bad. I'm like, wow, 2 days ago I released their names, and I also let a couple of news, I let WWSB, WTSP know about it. The Herald already knew about it, and they already hate me because I beat them on so many stories, so I decided not to communicate with them. And the Gondo doesn't really cover that kind of story, so I didn't really contact Ron on it. Lo and behold, the next day and a half, the individual, we get news yesterday, I think it was just prior to me going to this meeting last night, that the individual had committed suicide, one of the individuals involved. and they arrested the female officer involved, who coincidentally was involved in another sex case about 6 or 8 years ago, but this was more of a case where she had an affair with her boss, and the IA investigated. So it's tragic. My heart goes out to the family and to the, unfortunately, the officer and everybody involved. It's tragic that it led to this. It's tragic that they did something that led to this. Now, they're not guilty. Just like anybody, I put mugshots up all the time. These people are not guilty. However, they were arrested, and they're arrested for rape or sexual battery or something. I didn't look into it, but we're going to catch the story. This is a local station, WWSB, that had some coverage of it yesterday. So let's go to that real quick. And here we go. Whoops, we don't want that now. Play, and boom. Here you go, folks. Take a listen to this.
Tonight, 2 Northport police officers charged with sexual battery and kidnapping. One of those officers is in custody in the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. But before authorities could arrest the other officer, he shot and killed himself. The charges stem from an investigation that began on March 2nd after events that happened at a party being held by a female victim. Off-duty officer Melanie Turner and on-duty officer Ricky Urbina were both there. According to arrest warrants, the officers allegedly performed a forced sex act on the victim. Today, detectives reached a point of probable cause to arrest the officers. Officer Turner was arrested and taken into custody without incident. Officer Urbina, though, asked detectives to meet him at a pre-arranged location. But en route to that location, detectives got the call that there was a shooting at Urbina's home. He had killed himself. Officer Turner's first appearance in court is tomorrow at the Sarasota County Jail. And Northport police are now in charge of the investigation into their fellow officer's death. For the very latest, let's go live to ABC7's Max Winnitz, who is in Northport with the details tonight. Max.
Well, Haley, good evening. Obviously, a very shocking, a very stunning day here in the city of Northport, especially for this police department behind me. One of their own, the 6-year veteran Ricky Urbina, taking his own life after learning he would be arrested and charged for sexual battery and kidnapping. This is an incident that has left many in the community, many in his own neighborhood, and many here at the Northport Police Department in utter disbelief. A small neighborhood in Northport shaken up by the death of Ricky Urbina.
And turn down my road, and I seen them all down here. I'm like, oh man, what happened?
What happened was this. Around 4 this afternoon, Urbina taking his own life with a gun in the backyard of his home on Spinner Avenue.
Feel sorry for the family.
Detectives had notified him just minutes prior he would be arrested, charged with sexual battery and kidnapping.
Stunned. Stunned.
Neighbors say the 44-year-old who had been with the Northport Police Department for 6 years was usually a friendly guy, constantly waving hello from his police cruiser.
It was nice to have a cop car at the end of the street. It was some comfort to our neighborhood.
Not so nice to see this sort of scene in a quiet residential area.
Very disturbing. We like it here. We like to keep it quiet.
And back out here live, as you can see behind me, the flag, the American flag at half staff at this hour. There's still many unanswered questions tonight, questions we should get answers to tomorrow. We're being told Police Chief Kevin Vespa here at the Northport Police Department is scheduled to address the media at 11 a.m. Of course, stay with ABC7 for the very latest. We will bring you that information when it becomes available. Now, Haley, back to you.
And Max, when Urbina shot himself at his home, was anyone else there at the house at the time?
Well, we do have unconfirmed reports at this hour that his wife may have been at the house. We did speak with a couple of neighbors who tell us they saw his wife in the back of a patrol car.
All right, we don't need to hear anymore. It's tragic. So originally I was like, oh God, I got those names out there, and then it came out. Actually, it came out like last night late that it was in fact I don't know. The police decided to go ahead and arrest him. I don't know if they were arresting him because the names had gotten out there or what the specific issue is with it. But that's when he asked them to meet him. And you heard the report. Max did a great job on the report. It's unfortunate. I'm sure I'd hate to be a bug in that house. I'm sure his wife is in shock. So again, the heart goes out to them. They're all dealing with a tragic situation. Should have never happened this way. A bunch of unfortunate circumstances, and That's it. The story will continue on. So anybody wants to talk about that, if they want, 941-584-4874. Next conversation is with the town hall meeting yesterday. As I said, as this news was breaking, I was going to a town hall meeting. At that meeting, there's a new developer coming into town, and east of 75, Pat Neal Homes, they want to develop a bunch of the land out there. Well, a lot of individuals moved out there, and I've been in this area since 82, 34 years, something like that. And to me, I've always liked the smaller town feel of it. And that's why when I left Italy, I came back here. I liked the smaller town feel. I don't like it being so tourist driven. We did get a large share of tourists, but now it's just crazy. You go downtown on our island, and it's just packed like sardines in there. That's been brought on by a lot of the city council and the mayor, who have all basically been here under 10 years, except for Jeanette Gates, who's been here since the 70s, I think, when she was a kid. And they're all thinking growth, growth, growth. They keep pushing the growth agenda. So we went to this meeting, and I just went there just to cover it. There were some very, very angry individuals there. I did tape it, but for some reason I had video issues. I think Mr. Neal, Pat Neal, his son Jim, I think his name is, and his team there handled it well because they were under the attack. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the attack. Let's go on the attack pit bull thing. But many of the individuals were there, and they're upset, and possibly rightfully so. What really is bad about this is they bought their homes when it was a one house per 5 acres. It was zoned that way under this 2050 plan. Well, the city council came in roughly around 2007, according to Pat Neal's team, and decided that we could, it wasn't set in stone, but they could put a total of 5 houses per 1 acre out there and develop and growth. So Pat Neal bought up all these properties. Now, the problem is the large majority, from what I saw there yesterday, are Sarasota County residents on this side of the road. On that side of the road, the way it's cookie cutted all around with Venice, is Pat Neal. Well, the people that were there from the city of Venice, such as myself and a couple other people, don't live east of 75. We live west of 75 in Pine Brook, but we thought it'd be of interest because it's an environmental area. We're a little tired of the growth. It's going to impact us all here in Venice. It's obviously going to impact them more. So Pat Neal did what I think most sensible businessmen would do. He went out there just trying to make friendly with the crowd. He said he was open to changes. He's not looking at 5 homes per acre. He's looking at 1.7 per acre. Still, a lot of the people are upset. He's planning on putting up a wall where the river used to flow through. And now they're saying, look, it's going to divert that water away from your property, but it's going to hammer all of us, and the flooding is going to be even worse. He said they're putting in a hydraulic pump that should have it flowing good, but an engineer that was in the crowd stood up and said, you're wrong on that, buddy. So basically, all the yelling did bring up something of good for the community and for these individuals. Basically, we discovered that we asked him, what is it zoned, EAU or something like that. I forget what the acronym is. And he said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Or no, it's PUD. We can do 5 houses there. And the lady put up the map, and she said, no, it's the City of Venice map. It says it's IOU or EAU. God, I wish I didn't forget that acronym. But after going back and forth, we discovered that it is that way and that they haven't gotten the zoning yet. So originally, the City of Venice put this through in 2007, saying, you kid, it's a good idea, it's not written in stone, go up to 5 houses per acre. Everybody was under the impression that it was set in stone. We discovered yesterday, I don't think to Pat Neal's liking, that the property needs to be approved with the rezone. So we are starting another local campaign here, and I've done this with my page. Again, my page, let's see, the Venice one, it goes, I think I have 23,000 fans, I don't remember, and it has a weekly touch rate of 130,000 fans. So I went ahead and I basically did a news story on what happened, what took place at the meeting, and then I put it on my pages, got some comments, and I went ahead and sent that off to the county commissioners. That there's two people basically with the way the area is cut up, some Robinson and John, I forget the other commissioner's name. We sent it to them. We sent it to the city council, the mayor, and we said, look, we found out that this has not been approved yet. If it does get approved, that means you guys, it's all on your table, and you're responsible for bringing in all this growth and all this issues. And we let it be known to the local government that we are onto the fact that they will be held accountable for bringing on all this growth that a lot of the residents don't want. I think they had over 500 signatures on their petition against the growth, and it was presented to them. The mayor said, I consider this spam, and he sort of laughed it off. So again, local government, people work trying to do things starting from the bottom, working their way up. That's where I started, but primarily is bringing everything to everyone's attention locally. I'm starting to do it a lot more at the county level, and now I'm going with this national agenda through this talk show. I did get an interesting email. A lot of times I will go out and publicize my show on all my sites. Obviously, I have a huge fan base there. Now, I understand that 50% of the people will not agree with me. That's a given. One day people will enjoy what I have to say about Obamacare, but they may hate what I have to say about land rights. And because I try to go down the middle, although I've told everybody I'm leaning a bit more to the right. The idea is to present as much news to you. Once I start getting a lot more calls in, I probably will be less opinionated on here. Who knows? Maybe I'll be more. But right now I'm filling in the time slots, and I'm giving a lot more of my opinion. This individual, you came on and said, I like your page, which a lot of people like my local pages. I guess I manage them good. She didn't like my political views. She told me that I need to do fact checking, and then she hammered me about a local Josh. I'm going to say it the way I always do, Josh Taylor, because he's a local reporter, WWSB. I know him, and I always say Taylor. It's Tyler. It's Taylor, and she corrected me on that, and then she's corrected me on hobby. It's not Catholic. I don't recall calling him Catholic. I don't even remember saying which religion. I just said this is the idea of doing the Obamacare and providing abortion assistance to their employees, or whatever the story was around that it was against his religion. So she wanted to tell me the correct one, and then she wanted to tell me thirdly that I am totally wrong about ACA, Affordable Care, which is Obamacare, where I came on, I'm like, it's all factual. Everything that I went through yesterday about ACA is actual stuff that's happened. It's actual stuff that's in the news. Here, I got it here. $17 million a month in advertising. There's no false information there. Healthcare.gov, they're having another error, which is telling people the wrong premiums and that they may not be subsidized, where some may be subsidized. Oregon's having issues. The governor came out. So these are all factual news stories, but she decided to tell me that because she thinks it's not factual, that I am wrong and she is right. So I went ahead and it was on my Northport page, and I just advertised it. I don't put my political beliefs on there. I don't start going through this whole diatribe on there. I save it for this show or my Francesco Abbruzzino Facebook page or my Educate, Inspire, Change page. So I wrote her and I said, look, you're wrong. This, you may be right, you may be wrong, but this, just calling me wrong doesn't cut it. I said, if you want to post this, you can call in, you can post it on my other page, but you can't put it on my Northport or Venice page, because I'm not out there spilling this my beliefs out there. So I took her comments, I hit it, and I moved them over to the Educate page, and you guys can read it on there, what she said and how I responded back to her. But so I'm all for freedom of speech, but doing it in the appropriate manner. All right, that takes care of that. So Obama, He's meeting with some new tech CEOs again today. Wait, before I go there was so much news coming out, and I was trying to keep up with it. And when you start putting the news at the end of one show and you move through the day, you tend to get so much news that you get this big pile, and you got to dissect through it all. This was funny, though. Pelosi, who's a Democrat, she's in the she used to be the senior person in the Congress, but they lost majority, so now she's the minority leader. Basically, she said Barack Obama is the most nonpartisan president she has ever worked with. Now, granted, I'm leaning a lot to the right. I'm not a fan of Bonner. I think he's an idiot. McCain's an idiot. But I got to tell you, Pelosi's an even bigger idiot if she thinks that Barack Obama is nonpartisan. I don't know what world she is on. Obviously, she's just one-sided liberal, which we should know about Nancy. And then the president is even crazier. He says Pelosi, will go down in history as one of the greatest speakers ever. Okay, what say you out there, world? Let me know what you think. Are you on board? Do you think Pelosi is one of the greatest speakers ever? Do you think Barack Obama is nonpartisan? I think if he was nonpartisan, we wouldn't have half the issues that we've had. He's obviously very partisan. Worst case scenario, we're covering Fed sees $501 billion in losses by the nation's biggest banks. They went through and did this security check on a lot of the banks out there, and they decided that only one of the 30, they increased it by, I think, 18, is basically not solvent enough to cover itself with the losses. They said the worst being defined as a deep recession in the United States, steep declines in home prices, and recessions in the euro, as well as Japan. 30 major banks in the U.S. would lose a total of $501 billion over 9 quarters, according to the latest stress test by the Federal Reserve, which is privately owned, not government owned. Just so let's keep that straight. And I'm saying that because I was listening to a show prior to this, and you get tired of a lot of people thinking that it's a federal government entity. It's not. It's privately owned, the Federal Reserve. Just one, the Salt Lake City-based Zions Bancorp would not meet the Fed's minimum standards of capital in a worst-case scenario. And I got to tell you, I don't know what's involved in the stress test, but I think there's more banks that would not qualify. I can guarantee you Bank of America's got issues. I think they're going to be the next bank that runs into problems that we're going to either have to bail out or suck it up and get hit with a major economical financial crisis, because I don't see things going too good there if you follow the banks and you know what I am talking about. All right, for now, we're going to go into IRS phone scam. This is just something, let me pull it up because there's a commercial on it. So let me keep it this screen, and boom. All right, well, let me sound this commercial. Basically, this is just a scam. It's out by Fox News. I've heard it by several people where the IRS is calling you saying that you owe money and you need to pay up. Let me go over to this screen. Fox News piece there. Okay, now, stand your ground. Not a fan of it. It's here in Florida. And basically, a lot of people remember with Zimmerman where he felt he was in danger and he shot Trayvon Martin in Orlando. A lot of people say it was racist. They say there was no danger, and the whole story goes on with that. I'm not a fan of it. I was not a fan of it when Florida passed it. I thought it was a bad idea. I thought that it gave anybody that's walking around with their gun basically the right to shoot somebody and just claim self-defense. I thought it was just crazy. But now the state, instead of, a lot of people want them to recall it, basically get rid of the law, but now they're saying we're going to clarify exactly what stand your ground is. So let's take a listen to that clarification video. Let's see. And here we go. Stand your ground clarification. This is put out by, I don't remember. Okay, WWSB out of Tampa, though, this time. Not the local WWSB affiliate. And there we go with the lovely commercials. We're going to silence that. If we can. And we can. Now, this is lovely. I think I talked to everybody yesterday about the one that took off the volume on the advertisement. And you couldn't really stop it. You couldn't mute it. You couldn't control it. You couldn't raise it. Now this one, they're getting even clever with this one. You can't even mute it. So it's amazing what they're going through now. So there you go. Free advertisement for Holland.
Good evening, I'm Haley Wilkes.
And I'm Scott Dennis. Thanks for joining us. The controversy surrounding Florida's Stand Your Ground law has grown considerably since the Trayvon Martin case in 2012.
In an effort to prevent misinterpretation of the law, the Florida legislature is in the process of passing some new bills. ABC 7's Rebecca Vargas is joining us live in the studio with the latest. Rebecca.
Good evening, Haley. This week, the Florida legislature supported a new bill as well as made several revisions, and today both the Senate and House are expected to vote.
Stand Your Ground law continues to be a hot-button issue, plaguing lawmakers, which is why both the Senate and House have been grappling to work out the many concerns.
The way the law is written right now, you basically have the right to, pull out a gun and whatever happens, happens, and then insert the Stand Your Ground, defense.
To make clarifications to the law, the House is voting on the warning shot bill. House Bill 89 also addresses 1020 life in self-defense cases, which requires lengthy sentences for specific felony firearm convictions.
What this bill does is it allows you to show the gun or even fire a warning shot, which potentially could have gotten you 10 or 20 mandatory years before, and now it includes that within the Stand Your Ground law.
Legislators also made a change this week, granting a person who successfully uses a Stand Your Ground defense a petition to have records related to the arrest removed.
The reason why it's a good law is because if someone's trying to break into your house or if somebody's threatening you, you want to be able to defend yourself.
For that very reason, a local agrees with the clarification of the law.
If you do have a gun and someone does invade your home, I think you do have certainly the option of sending off a warning shot.
But there are still those who oppose Stand Your Ground altogether. Sarasota's NAACP says they want to see the law repealed.
When you still have the basis of the Stand Your Ground law, written the way it's written, we already have self-defense laws on the book. We don't need it. It's dangerous.
There are locals who
believe
bills will not help.
NAACP guy here. I would have loved to see a law so that if I'm in my house and someone breaks in, I'm standing my ground, I shoot them. I do carry a loaded gun. It's in a safe in my bedroom. It's got my fingerprint thing on there. I can grab it, go out and shoot anybody that's invading the house. I don't advocate, and I'm not a fan of being able to carry your gun on the street and somebody pissing you off and you can claim, oh, I was scared for my life, so I shot him and killed him and took somebody's life. When they said they were clarifying it, I had hoped that would be clarifying as to when Stand My Ground would apply. But to me, it seems like it just expanded the law and gave you a lot more flexibility by clearing your record, by allowing you to shoot a gun up in the sky. So I could be sitting there just hanging out, shoot my gun in the sky, cops come over, I could say, oh, I was just shooting it in the sky because I was feared for my life. Some guy came up, he took off, I don't know where he went. In reality, I was just out there firing my gun off, and Oh, we just got a news flash. Obama signs the law putting caps on flood insurance increases. That's that middle income, high income entitlement program we discussed the other day. All right, so let's get on to another entitlement program. This one being Obamacare. I was going to try to avoid talking about it today, but it's hard to avoid talking about it when the news keeps coming up. Like I would have told the individual that wrote me, attacking me, basically, hey, I'm in the medical industry, so I'm pretty confident I know what I'm talking about. B, I read up and I research it all the time. C, I get all the news, and they're all factual news here, and I get it from the liberal and the conservative sides, primarily conservative, because the liberal is primarily in a lot of the, in Obama's pocket. I can't imagine MSNBC putting something out critical of Obamacare. And just, so let me go on instead of getting on my diatribe. The New York Times reports that between January and March of this year, the Obama administration is and will spend $17 a month advertising. I covered this briefly yesterday, and I wanted to check. I got another source on it. That's the number, folks. 17. How can we be spending that much money promoting Obamacare? And then, like I said yesterday, many of the individuals aren't even aware that they get subsidies that come along with Obamacare. So it's not an effective campaign, marketing campaign. So many issues there. Not a fan of it. Not a fan of spending that much money trying to promote this free entitlement program to throughout the United States. Another glitch was discovered, newly discovered healthcare.gov glitch. Let me see. Not just national, but state glitch. Okay, yeah, we do have a piece on this. Let me pull it up real quick while I'm talking. And if you could tell, I'm not highly organized today. It is generally one of my busier days with the job that actually pays, so I've been running around and handling that stuff. But basically in this, they said that the Philadelphia Inquirer discovered a glitch. The newspaper found that the calculator is using the wrong year's poverty guidelines. A simple mistake that for months has resulted in would-be enrollees not getting in adequate information. In some cases, it would say that they're not qualified for subsidies. In other cases, it would say that they're getting more subsidies than what they will actually be getting.
For more policy
commercial, we're going to silence that. And it says because of the glitch, some people may be initially told that they qualify, just like I just said, healthcare.gov and some of the state. All right, let's go ahead and listen to this.
All this week, we've been conducting an Obamacare checkup, seeing where the law is a week and a half until the March 31st deadline for signups. The latest Pew poll out today shows the law is unpopular, with a majority of those surveyed, 53%, as you see, disapprove, 41% approve. Tonight, it's all about the cost curve and what this new law means for your household budget, as well as the national deficit.
When Obamacare was signed into law almost 4 years ago, President Obama emphasized the affordable part of the Affordable Care Act.
This legislation will also lower costs for families and for businesses and for the federal government, reducing our deficit by over $1 trillion in the next 2 decades. It is paid for. It is fiscally responsible.
Republicans agreed that something needed to be done.
You're right to frame the debate on cost and health inflation. You basically said, and I totally agree with this, I will not sign a plan that adds one dime to our deficits, either now or in the future.
But what has the Affordable Care Act truly accomplished when it comes to cutting our nation's health care costs? A recent report from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services found that overall national health expenditures increased 3.7% in 2012 to reach $2.8 trillion, or $8,915 per person. That marked the 4th consecutive year of low growth. The White House cited those numbers as evidence of success.
The years 2009 to 2012 saw the slowest growth in U.S. healthcare expenditures since the government started collecting this information in the 1960s. These trends have already begun to pay dividends in the form of savings for American consumers, lower costs for businesses, and our rapidly declining deficits.
But others argue that a bending of the trajectory of costs the healthcare cost curve can hardly be attributed to Obamacare, which has only been in effect for less than 3 months.
Economists don't really know yet why healthcare costs have slowed down. One of the reasons is the recession and the slow economy. Whenever we have a slowdown in the economy, healthcare costs drop. But no serious economist says that 3 months into Obamacare has turned this around.
The administration's other argument is that the Affordable Care Act has reduced healthcare costs for millions of individuals. That began as a campaign promise.
I have a universal health care plan that will cover every American and cut the cost of a typical family's premiums by $2,500 a year.
Yet many analysts say that has not happened, in part because Obamacare forces consumers to buy a list of essential benefits, which make insurance more expensive than it is now.
It's trying to force a lot of consumers, a lot of Americans, to buy insurance plans they'd rather not buy.
If you like what you have, you can't keep it. Your premiums rather than going down or going up. And people are learning that they can't keep their doctor or go to the same hospital that they have previously
they're
gone to.
basically discussing a checkup, which basically hashes out a lot of the same stuff that I've been saying on this show for a while. Next thing, national site. Oh, hold on one second, folks. It's not only national sites that are having issues, but also the state exchanges with Obamacare are having issues. And this is where an Oregon governor released Obamacare investigation findings. High-ranking official resigns over it because the system they had a troubled website. It says a fundamental breakdown project of management, an overly ambitious scope, mistrust between Cover Oregon and OHA, and problems with the software developer Oracle have led to many of the glitches. So it's not just the federal level where a lot of this is happening at healthcare.gov, but it's happening with a lot of the different exchanges, which I think I covered California's issue not too long ago. Let me silence this commercial. And that's the point, people. They rushed this through. They didn't take a quality time to ensure that all the states were up to speed, that the federal was up to speed, that everything made sense. Here we go.
Long review of the troubled website. Thanks for joining us. I'm
Bad quality.
And I'm Russ. What's happening now? Governor John Kitzhaber just released the results of the investigation into Cover Oregon. At the same time, the Cover Oregon director is stepping down. So what went wrong, and what's getting done now to fix it? News Channel 8's Ashley Porcelain joining us live from the Capitol down in Salem with more on what the governor had to say. Ashley?
Well, Russ and Brent, the governor had called for an independent assessment of Cover Oregon. Now, that focused on problems with management and the website developer Oracle. Here's just a portion of his press conference that ended just a few minutes ago.
I'm angry and I am disappointed by the rollout of Cover Oregon and the ongoing technical problems that have created delays, uncertainty, confusion, and frustration among Oregonians who need and deserve health care. At the same time, I have refused to allow these problems to become obstacles to our larger objective of enrolling Oregonians in affordable health plans.
Now, the governor says the assessment shows several big problems. Cover Oregon first, a lack of proper management structure.
Okay, the quality of the video isn't that great, so I'm going to end it. She basically summarizes what I just stated to you guys. Now, there's one other issue, and I wanted to say the individual said, "Get your facts straight. You're lying about Obamacare." As you can see, that's not me lying. That's the governor of Oregon and this news station reporting some of the issues that they're having. Here's another one, the AMA. They were a big supporter of Obamacare. American Medical Association Wednesday blasted guidelines to help members try and avoid some costs. What costs are you talking about? At issue is a 90-day grace period, which lets patients who are not paying their premiums keep coverage for 90 days before it can be canceled. It's almost like Cobra, but Cobra you're paying after you leave a job.
I think about
Rick Scott, we don't want to hear about that idiot. Basically what they're saying is once a person's coverage ends, they can continue to get coverage for 90 days without paying for it. Here's the kicker. Insurance will be responsible for paying just for the first 30 days. And the next 60 days are going to fall upon the doctor, the medical clinic. They're going to have the burden of, basically they're going to submit their claims. And I know this because I do the billing. Here we go. All right.
All this week, we've been conducting an Obamacare checkup, seeing where the law is. Less than 2 weeks until
I didn't even realize that. I must have put the wrong link on there. So I can talk through this. So basically, after 30 days, this is another, if they would have read Obamacare, they would have caught this ridiculous clause or stipulation within Obamacare, which basically states that I'm Joe Blow. I cancel my insurance. I get free insurance for up to 90 days without paying a dime. Now, for the first 30 days, the insurance company is going to be responsible. For the last 60 days, the doctor is going to be responsible. Now, the insurance company knows that the insurance is lapsed. Obviously, they know. How does the doctor know? An individual can go see a chiropractor, pain management, a dermatologist, and all these different doctors. He gives the card, they assume it's active, and they don't realize he's within that 60 days. They're running up these huge bills, and then who's going to be responsible? The doctors, of course. The AMA has been urging the Obama administration to tweak the rules so that insurers are at least required to notify doctors as soon as the patient falls behind. Here's the issue, though. That's not going to work. Insurance companies are... That's a nightmare. I basically, with my medical consulting firm, most of our revenues are generated from medical billing. I could tell you I would not rely on an insurance company contacting me to tell me that somebody that's visiting my clinic has fallen behind and they're within their 90-day area and not to treat. It's just, it may sound great on paper. It doesn't happen in reality. That's not the way it works. Unfortunately, this is just another clause, another stipulation within Obamacare, another mandate that if the agreement was read appropriately and gone through appropriately by the legislators, we would not have had it. Just like the one I haven't heard anything about, it's sort of fallen off the ledge there, and I have to check up on it. If you guys remember, I mentioned, a month ago, Mark Rubio. He came across a clause in the Obamacare that basically states that if Obamacare does not, if insurance companies that are following through with Obamacare do not generate a profit and they lose money, that the taxpayers will bail them out, and it's our responsibility to bail them out so that they don't have any losses. How many of you want that? How many people out there think that's a great idea? It's stupid. It's ridiculous. But guess what? The insurance companies wrote Obamacare, and they wrote it to favor them. They can cry all day long saying, oh, we're losing money, but that's a bunch of bull crap. I'm telling you. Just like a lot of these insurance companies, it's amazing. A lot of you guys here in Florida, you may not know this, and I handle a lot of PIP. They changed the laws in Florida about, a year and a half ago. Now, you have an insurance policy. You're paying for $10,000 in coverage. And generally what happens is when you're in an accident, you pull from your policy, and then you go to court and you settle with the other person's policy if they're at fault, and you do all that good stuff. Well, you have $10,000 in there, right? You're paying a monthly premium for them. You expect that coverage there. Well, the legislators up in Tallahassee, our lovely friends up there, both Republicans and Democrats, Rubio was one of them. That idiot was leading the charge. Went up and said, hey, I got a great idea. If a person gets in an accident and doesn't make it to a doctor within 14 days, then they don't get that $10,000. They're screwed. And I can tell you, many accidents, you may not feel it for a month down the road. But they're saying, you don't make it there for 14 days, tough luck, we're not going to pick up one dime of it. Even though you're paying that premium to the insurance company. Guess who helped write those rules? The insurance companies. Now, it gets even worse. You are basically given, out of that $10,000, initially $2,500. And to get more than $2,500, They want you to, the person, to go out and get a letter from an MD stating that it's beyond soft tissue, that its treatment is needed, without it, blah, 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 and you go into all the medical ease there. You get that letter, you send it off to the insurance company. They can still deny it if they don't agree with you, and they don't have to pay. Many attorneys, Morgan, many attorneys out there are challenging it. That's one rule that's being challenged, and it seems to be a lot of them are winning. But the 2-week, 14-day rule, a lot of people are challenging that, and they're having major issues. I have not seen one get paid yet beyond 14 days, and I have a lot of clinics, and a few patients have come in after 14 days, and we have to tell them, sorry, your insurance is not picking up. Hopefully you were not at fault, and you will be able to get the money when we go for an LOP settlement. So insurance companies, another one they love doing. They love sending you off for an IME. As soon as you're in an accident, Geico's notorious for this. They'll say, you got to go get an IME. And that's your insurance company trying to get out of paying the money so that they can go send you to a doctor that they pay to have do exams of you. And they'll send like 20 people to this doctor every month. Do you think his exam is going to be more favorable towards the insurance company or towards the consumer? All right, you do the math, folks. I could go on for hours telling you how the PIP industry works out there and how Tallahassee has basically turned their back on the residents of Florida when it comes to insurance. Next, the Malaysian flight. Nothing new. Everybody knows that there's they saw that large piece of debris out there. I tried finding this thing that I saw at the news today where they had a chalkboard and they were putting down leads, which ones were good, which ones were bad, and it was pretty rudimentary, and you could go in and get a good understanding of it. But it's all hypothesis. Nobody really knows. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not really going to talk about it until we get something more concrete on that issue. For all I know, an Iranian could have taken the plane, and it's parked over in Tehran right now, waiting for the boat, which is off our shores right here. Yes, the Iran battleship, which they sent to prove a point to us, is just offshores of the United States in international waters. I think it's 15 miles out. Let's see. Taxman raid bank account. This is just over in Europe, so I'll just cover it real briefly. And basically, sweeping new powers to raid the bank accounts of tax dodgers. So if you have something like this is in England, £5,000, and you owe $1,000, they can come in taxes. They can come into your bank account and take the money out. Will block transfers of profits between companies with groups that owe money. It just goes, basically this illustrates how government has too much power, too much control. They say you owe taxes, so we're coming in and getting it. And you can't really fight them. Try fighting them. It's a major pain in the butt. And again, I pay my taxes. I have my accountant that deals with all of it, but I don't think I'm supposed to. Legally, I don't see the precedence where I have to pay taxes. And I sit here every day scratching my head when I pay a ton of taxes for all this hard work I'm doing, and I'm not reaping the benefits. My taxes are going to pay for Obama phones, Obamacare, and all this other stuff, entitlements, flood insurance subsidies, farmer subsidies, food stamp programs, all that good stuff that we all enjoy. Which brings up the next thing, the middle class. I don't even have, I can just talk through this. I don't even have to read this. It's an article by Michael Schneider, and he basically covers the middle class and how they've fallen and how a lot of people. Well, let me read a little. There are millions of American families that once lived very comfortably, middle-class lifestyles that have lost it all. Every day you can see a disappointment or disapproval in their eyes. They go on to explain stories where individuals one day will be up. They're like many American families. They live paycheck to paycheck. Next thing you know, they're losing their job, and they're down in despair. They're living out of their car. They're trying to squeak by. Once you lose your housing, your car, and that, it makes it much more difficult to go out and get a job. And then the story talked about individuals that will look down on them. They will think, hey, this guy doesn't have a job anymore, and they just turn away from them. The story says you shouldn't really do that, and it goes into stories how people have done that And next thing you know, they're in the same boat. Karma, baby, karma. Last winter, I ran into a friend pushing his 2 youngest children in a stroller. When I asked how he was doing, he told me he'd recently lost his job. I walked away thinking, thank God that's not us. Fast forward 7 months now, and we're the family walking away with a sigh of relief. So it's happening to a lot of people. I count my blessings every day, folks, and I tell my wife, my kids, you're always just a day away from being in the streets. Let's see, the deeper that, they did have another fact on here. They say that our economy has stabilized as much as a lower level than it was before. However, 32 million Americans were on food stamps when Barack Obama took office. Now, it's shot up to 47 million people. The despair that our young adults are feeling right now shows up very clearly on the survey. Back in 2008, 25% of all Americans in the 18 to 29-year-old range considered themselves to be low class. Today, in 2014, it is shot up to 49%, which is shameful. And you'll find in a lot of literature out there, a lot of research, you'll find that the younger generation, that demographic I just read, when they're in despair, when they can't get jobs, is when you start seeing revolutions, when you start seeing the spring riots over in the Middle East. A lot of that is all brought on due to the economy. Venezuela, I've covered that. Their economy is in shambles because the United States started a currency war to try to devalue their currency. They're going to try the same thing with Russia. Ukraine, that uprising was all due to their economy. It's one of the worst out there in Europe, which Ukraine, yes, is considered Europe on the western side. A lot of people consider the Crimea area to be more Asian, Russian. Russia may revoke. Okay, that's it there. Now we're hopping over to unrest, Ukraine. We're just cruising through right now. Ukraine, Russia may revoke a fleet hosting deal with Ukraine. Basically, they're saying we got the Crimea back, and the deal was that they could use the Crimea port if they gave $11 billion to the Ukraine. The deal was extended permission Russia to keep the Ukraine until 2017. Russia says, well, now that we've had this referendum and the Crimea is no longer part of Ukraine, you owe us all this money back. Not all of it, but the amount prorated and everything in there. You owe it back to us, and we want it now. If you don't get it, we're going to pursue it through every means available so that we can get this money back. That's $11 billion. They say they'll go to the relevant courts. Now, the Ukraine economy is struggling for cash, with Russian officials insisting they were the first to be interested in Ukraine's economic stability. The country's treasury is almost at empty, and it is not a pretty picture over there. And hence why a lot of people are saying the United States has robbed them of all their gold. There was a story, and I didn't have time to read it, where they're talking about the United States in a gold grab, grabbing the Ukraine's gold to store it here in the United States. A lot of countries have issues getting their gold back from the United States, and some believe that it's fake gold, where they've taken and basically put gold on the outer side, made it look heavy, and I forget what the metal is in the inside, because a lot of the world's gold is gone or missing, with the U.S. being the primary holder of many of the countries' gold out there. Visa, MasterCard, they were blocked with U.S. sanctions, and with the Russian banks, they said they didn't see it coming. They stopped serving clients of Rosia Bank, with Visa halting operations with 3 more lenders. The move comes after the U.S. issued sanctions against it regarding Russia's position on the Ukraine. There was no warning, and they're trying to help out their citizens or their customers as much as they can to get through this tumultuous time financially. U.S. President Barack Obama has promised a series of fresh sanctions against Russia. Individuals linked to the Russian government would be targeted for increased sanctions. A bank supporting those individuals will also be hit. And the U.S. is working with the European Union, and a series of more stringent measures should be taken if the Kremlin does not adhere to the United States demands on the Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister has responded by announcing a retaliatory sanctions in which he says will hit the United States like a boomerang. So it's heating up there. A lot of people are saying you're not going to see a military World War III, but you're going to see an economic. Now you have any more? We're going to be doing some military exercises in Poland. I saw announced just before I came on the line. We're doing the NATO exercises in the Ukraine, which we discussed yesterday. I think they're this summer. So it's getting ratcheted up. Price tag for Russia. Russian gas. As you may or may not know, Russia has all their fuel, all their gas. They pump it through the Ukraine. A lot of those pipes run through the Ukraine and disperse out to Italy, Europe, Western Europe, all across the world. The price of Russian gas to Ukraine could rise $500 per 1,000 cubic meters as future developments in relations with Moscow and Kiev remain vague. From April 1, the price of Ukraine pays for Russian gas will go up to $360 to $370 per 1,000 cubic meters. So again, heating up. They're going to hit Ukraine in the wall, and that's obviously going to roll downhill and impact most of Western Europe. I remember when I was living in Italy, there was a big dispute between the Ukraine and Russia in terms of gas and the pumping of it, and they basically were cutting it off to Europe, and the gas prices in Italy are already very high. I think it went up to like $10 a gallon. They were like at $7 or something like that. So it's getting even more expensive over there. Farias Curie calls Netanyahu to complain about Israel defense minister's remarks. This I gave the minister's remarks a couple days ago. It basically said that the U.S. is weak in the mind and eyes of many of the international community, and he just went into this whole diatribe. Kerry protested the remarks by the defense minister Yalon, who criticized the United States for projecting a feeble image throughout its foreign policy agenda. Netanyahu says they're not consistent with America's unshakable commitment to Israel. Well, Kerry said that to Netanyahu. Last year, the U.S. and 5 other world powers agreed on an interim deal with Iran that would lift some sanctions in exchange for the curbs on Iran's nuclear deal. Many in Israel feel like that the United States has caved into Iran. And I think I said yesterday that Israel is allocating, I think the number was $5 billion in their budget towards an attack on Iran, stating that it may or may not happen. Iraq is still very unstable too. And if you haven't caught on, this is my global unrest section. At least 38 people, including many members of the security force, have been killed in various bombings in Iraq. So we went in there. We spent God knows how many dollars in there. Still, it's unstable. So a few cities have been taken over by Al-Qaeda elements, and it's not a pretty picture in Iraq. And the same story goes for Afghanistan. If you want to call in, 941-584-4874. Let me see where it is on it. That's Venezuela. Right here, Afghanistan. It's bleeding U.S. taxpayers, corruption in the culprit. Rampant corruption in Afghanistan could spell the disaster of American reconstruction efforts after more than a decade of war in Central Asia. Scene of longest and most expensive war in the history, a basic lack of oversight over key reconstruction projects has led to corruption on a massive scale. It was even established that the United States is paying ghost workers in the National Police Force an unknown sum of money, which significantly hit the taxpayers. Newly constructed schools were in danger of collapsing. Medical facilities are low on medicine and supplies, and the highways are disintegrating faster than they can build them. So it's not a pretty picture over there. Let's see. Last year, Afghanistan tied with Somalia and North Korea as countries with the highest perceived levels of corruption out of 177 states. U.S. war in Afghanistan and Iraq will cost the taxpayers a total of $4 to $6 trillion. Now, do you think that's money we could have used here? Lives were lost there. Money was lost there. And guess what? This situation in Iraq is worse than when Hussein was there. Hussein was just a guy, some crazy guy that was spitting out a bunch of rhetoric. The reasoning for going in there was the gas, which was never found. And the United States continues to do this stuff. Afghanistan, even though they had a tyrannical government in there, they were not responsible for the terrorist attack. It was Al-Qaeda, but they said, hey, this government is supporting Al-Qaeda there and gave us reason to go in there, take over the country, destabilize the whole area. It just makes no sense, folks. Corporate media, and you know what, the soldiers dying. I'm a veteran of the United States Navy, and it just sickens me that we send our soldiers into these conflicts that they don't really need to go into and should not be involved in. These corporate media now reporting CIA mercenaries in Syria. Hold on, not just I got something on this, so let's go to this video. Let me pull it up while I'm talking. It's going to be a long weekend. Let me see. Right here. Okay. I didn't quite get this. You're going to see the Syrian video. I watched it. Basically, let me silence it for a little bit. I watched it just to see what some of the pictures coming out of Syria look like, because I like to see them. This is where some people were saved from a terrorist. Hold on a second. But it's always good to look at these other media sites and just get a different perspective of what life is like there. We don't see this type of video from America. Some of it may be propaganda.
Syrian Arab Army units eliminate non-Syrian terrorists from the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant organization in Homs. Of Crimea and Sevastopol to federal Russia.
So some of it may be propaganda, but you have to be able to go out and look at these different news shows from the different countries so you have a perspective on everything. You can't go through. Let's hear what she has to say.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Herald Krikorian from the News Center in Damascus. 5 citizens were killed and 10 others wounded today when mortar shells fired by terrorists fell at the entrance of Jaramana. A citizen was also killed and 10 others wounded by mortar shells fired by terrorists on Az-Zablatani neighborhood. The 48 citizens, comprising civilians and military personnel, who had been liberated by the Syrian Arab Army in At-Tabuqa district in Al-Raqqa Governorate, arrived into the city of Hama this morning. Their liberation is considered as one of the most remarkable operations carried out by the Syrian Arab Army to liberate the kidnapped, a fight that has been accorded big interest by the Syrian state in order to liberate the kidnapped and ensure their return to their relatives and the homeland. The Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, all of them non-Syrians, in an ambush on the agricultural road between the village of Al-Bouir and Al-Rayyan in the eastern countryside of Homs.
All right, so a couple things here. A lot of times I'll show this stuff because I tend to watch it. I started when I was over in Italy, and you get a different perspective. You don't want to take everything that Fox News or CNN tosses out, because a lot of that is where they're spitting out the United States propaganda or the corporate propaganda. You want to be able to watch these different news stations. You can get their perspective. Now, you not saying you want to agree with the perspective. You just want that other perspective so that you can formulate a educational, make an educational decision on what you feel is happening in that area. You know, sometimes it's a little gross like that. It's weird. Sometimes I'll post pictures on my local Venice page of an auto accident. I don't think I've ever posted a body because it would disturb me. So, but generally it's just the car and saying, hey, it was smashed. I just get so many people that attack me. I remember one time a whole family was just emailing me, telling me how much of an idiot I am. And it was just a car. I couldn't tell whose car it was, but obviously they knew. And nobody else knew. We didn't mention the person's name. We didn't say anything. Can you imagine posting those pictures of the dead soldiers with close-ups? And that's normal. Over in Europe, Middle East, that's very common. I used to see it all the time, and I still do. I watch Italian news TV all the time, every night. And I can tell you it's very commonplace. Let's see. People are just being murdered. Fresh EU funds for Greece do little to stop the issues over there. Yep, we all remember the protests there. Again, young individuals without jobs, and they were protesting. And then they brought in austerity, and the EU started dictating how they had to basically go in and run their economy. They just got a fresh loan of 800.5 billion euro, coupled with a further spending cuts, which are going to drive up unemployment. Many doctors and teachers are out of jobs, as many other professions. Reports conclude that an agreement on a new loan would be reviewed by the Eurogroup and IMF. Greece was making progress on its commitments to keep the banking sector healthy, one of the conditions of the release of the funds. Despite the level of capital in Greek banks, it's very low, and non-performing loans are seen as an obstacle to getting the country back on track. Above is all the consolidation is the people out in the streets who feel the EU strategy has taken something and only made it worse. The population experiencing some major unemployment, with the under 25s being at 60%. And I'm telling you, people, there's 1.3 million Greeks unemployed. I'm telling you, when unemployment, check it out, Google it. It's on record. Research it. When unemployment with our youth is at such high levels, 60% in Greece, and I think in southern Italy, I think it's like 55%. It evolves into protest. It evolves into the young being active and the young saying, wait, we want something done. You see it all the time. It brought up Stella Cinque, five star in English, in Italy, which is basically, it's a comedian over there, and he started this whole revolution, and they've gained some political seats, and the guy is comical to watch. He's almost mesmerizing. You can watch him because he's so animated with his face and his movements, and he's loud and he's boisterous. Maybe someday I'll put him on here. The guy, you won't understand a word of what he's saying, but it's interesting just to watch him and the politics over there. Venezuela moves swiftly against opposition. I showed you guys some of the riots that are happening over there. The president, Nicolas Maduro, has used a military legislation and judicial power to consolidate during the 15 years of socialist rule. 2 more opposition politicians are behind bars. One of them sentenced to 10 months in prison. So basically what they're doing now over in Venezuela is they're cracking down on a bunch of leaders and throwing them in prison, hoping that will silence the protests, silence the movement that has been going and growing and growing and moving on. I do have a video I didn't play. Let's go. We're going to backtrack to the Russian and basically how Obama hopes that these latest sanctions will crash the Russian economy, which I don't know about that. I think until you kick them out of the G8 or out of IMF, you're really not going to see any major impact on Russia at all. But what do I know? I'm just a common folk here. Okay, let's see. Let's see if we can get this video up for you. This is, what page is this? This source comes to us from Breitbart. Okay, Breitbart. Take a quick listen. if our bandwidth from Verizon could cooperate with us.
Over the last several days, we've continued to be deeply concerned by events in Ukraine. We've seen an illegal referendum in Crimea, an illegitimate move by the Russians to annex Crimea, and dangerous risks of escalation, including threats to Ukrainian personnel in Crimea and threats to southern and eastern Ukraine as well. These are all choices that the Russian government has made, choices that have been rejected by the international community, as well as the government of Ukraine. And because of these choices, the United States is today moving, as we said we would, to impose additional costs on Russia. Based on the executive order that I signed in response to Russia's initial intervention in Ukraine, we're imposing sanctions on more senior officials of the Russian government. In addition, we are today sanctioning a number of other individuals with substantial resources and influence who provide material support to the Russian leadership, as well as a bank that provides material support to these individuals. Now, we're taking these steps as part of our response to what Russia has already done in Crimea. At the same time, the world is watching with grave concern.
That's enough from that guy. I'm telling you, that's not going to impact them. Putting sanctions against their leaders, the oligarch that doesn't even do any business over here, isn't going to impact them. And they're prepared. They're pretty hardcore. And I think what it is, honestly, and I say this from my travels, international travels, is we don't understand the culture over there. And I've run into the issue where a lot of times people don't understand me based upon my culture, or I don't understand them with their culture, and it causes conflict. That's what I'm seeing here. Sorry. All right. So next, militarization of the police force. Many of you guys may be rolling your eyes there, but it's something that I see. It's something that this sheriff sees here. This is a sheriff who was removed as an obstacle to a militarized police in Delaware. In Delaware, the son of Joe Biden pushed through the state legislation a bill which would redefine the duties of sheriffs and their deputies. It removed their arrest authority and made them little more than process servers and prison transporters. Yeah, you heard me right. The sheriff cannot arrest. The action in Delaware has effectively removed that obstacle from the path of the central controlling government and increasingly militarized the state police force. The residents have no protection from anonymous occupants of the black uniforms. Delaware Sheriff Jeff Christopher says, right now the threat to individual Americans from Al-Qaeda and other groups is nowhere near the threat we face from officials in our country who are working to take away our liberties. The fight for liberty is never over. And basically what's happened here is he feels that this Biden character took away their ability to arrest people so that they could take away their control and make it so that the state police basically can come in and manage the area. Not unlike what you're seeing a lot in my area, where the local sheriff has, when he came in and shut down the South County jail, he said, keep it up and I'll basically come in here and take over policing of the city limits. And that's at the county level, and you can see it at the state level. Then you look a lot at their uniforms. We're going to play this video one time, and I think I played something yesterday for you folks where the individuals were dressed up in basically for garb and supplies and equipment that resembled soldiers over in Iraq. Members of the Austin Police Department are training alongside the Texas Army National Guard troops at Austin Camp Mabry. And this was just yesterday, learning various military tactics that they say will help them prepare for the next Fort Hood type situation. News crews were allowed to witness a few of the drills within the facility. Here we go.
Disaster. Should an event like the 2009 mass shootings at Fort Hood happen here at Camp Mabry, Austin police would be the first to respond. Today, APD officers and soldiers trained for such a scenario.
Yeah, this was the first time they had such a joint training effort
effort together here, and they let us in on some of the drills. A gunman has entered the medical building at Camp Mabry. 2 soldiers are down. This is a drill. But the Texas Army National Guard wants to be prepared should this actually take place. Austin police help with the search for the gunman. If this were real, APD would be the first outside help to respond. We follow officers as they clear the rooms. Shots are heard from the second floor. The threat has been taken out.
In light of recent events, such as the Fort Hood shooting, the Navy Yard shooting, these are all incidents that strike home the importance of being ready and prepared.
Lieutenant Colonel Les Davis enlisted the help of APD to help his troops practice their active shooter training. It's the first time to work together on this.
An opportunity to work with the Austin Police Department gives us a chance to learn how we train. We teach them how we train, and we use this opportunity to practice the techniques that we would use should we have a real incident here.
The Austin police officers you see are a part of the department's counter-assault strike team. They are experts on active shooter response.
Hey, where's he at? You know where he's at?
Assistant Chief Steve Deaton is in charge of the team.
Every time that we work with the military, I think we both come away winners. We use them to help teach our CAS team small unit tactics. Not only do they have a lot of...
So basically, a lot of people are looking at this type of training as the government continuing to prepare for a militarization type mindset, to get equipment and everything. If you've seen a lot of their new armored vehicles, a lot of people, a lot of the conspiracy individuals out there are thinking that they're mobilizing and preparing for a fight against the citizens of the United States. What say you folks out there? 941-584-4874. Are they militarizing for a controlled type environment with U.S. residents, or are they just being more prepared as a police force to help the citizens out in issues where the police are needed? New executive order. Obama has just given himself authority to seize your assets. On Monday, the U.S. government took steps to seize the U.S.-based assets of Russia. Lawmakers and anyone else that the U.S. government deemed complicit in supporting the Crimea succession movement. You may think, well, how does this impact me? That's Russia. That's Crimea. Well, let's see. U.S. government do this in countless cases surrounding drug and financial crimes. Unprecedented and terrifying is that the President Obama went so far as to issue a new executive order. He's got that pin. I got a pin too. To give himself the authorization to do so, because the laws of the United States are such that our government is not allowed to simply take someone's bank assets, home or business without due process. The new executive order does not just apply to just Russians and foreigners. It gets blanket coverage, so even American citizens could now face asset forfeiture if their actions are deemed to be contributing to a situation in the Ukraine. All right, so what's that mean? Well, you could sit here and say, because I'm broadcasting, because the U.S. government said we invaded Ukraine, and I say, no, we didn't. No, they or say that Russia invaded the Ukraine, and I say, no, they didn't. There was a treaty in, I think it was 93, stating that they could have 26,000 soldiers there. They only had 16,000, so they didn't really invade. They were already there. Because I make a comment like that, they could seize my assets because in their mind, they deem it as promoting Russia over the Ukraine and that whole situation. And you may say, come on, Frank, that's far-fetched. But that's not far-fetched, folks. That's how it works. Read a lot of these different scenarios, and that's generally how it works. Next is, that was another executive order, gun controls. And we're going to go to this one. This is an ATF raid. And what makes this, we're going to go into this story. I'm not sure if this is the one. Store owner claims he tried to make a secret deal. Okay, this is an individual where the ATF came in basically and raided this gun store. And prior to the raid, they tried to make a secret deal to get all the names of their customers that were in the database. For some reason, I'm thinking I already covered this. we're going to skip that because for some reason I'm thinking I already covered this a couple days ago. This next one, gun CEO takes a stand over proposed gun control bill, warns lawmakers we will not comply, just like in Connecticut. A New Jersey man warned the state assembly committee last week that he and other gun owners in the state will not comply with a proposed gun control bill, which further limits their magazine capacity. I know with our Bill of Rights, we have the right to carry a weapon, be armed. I don't know. This is a real gray area. Can you have a magazine that has 10 bullets? I don't think anything states what kind of gun you can have. Basically, you have the right to be armed. So sometimes they take the amendment and stretch it a little bit to say, well, you're taking away my machine gun. Well, what do you need a machine gun? Sometimes I sit there and ponder that. During the March 13th hearing, and the thing is you don't want to give them a little bit. I think this is where most of these the gun advocates come from, is that you don't want to give them a little bit because they'll take more and more and more until you don't have any rights, which is the viewpoint that they have and the viewpoint I have. I don't want these little actions to be taken because it seems like they'll take a little bit of the pie, a little bit more of the pie. Next thing you know, they have my whole pie, and I'm hungry. During the March 13th hearing, Anthony Calandro told lawmakers that he proposed the bill would turn law-abiding gun owners into criminals overnight. He is a CEO of Guns for Hire, a firearm training center in Jersey. I personally own approximately $30,000 of guns. Contrary to what the ceasefire New Jersey says, that they do not make 10-round magazines for. I also have in my possession at my range over $20,000 in magazines. A, you're not going to seize it from me. B, if you try to seize it, are you going to give me $50,000 for all this equipment? Which starts up a whole new controversy. How about the rush to gun permits following an overturn in the California firearms law? Concealed weapon permits have exploded in California after a federal court overturned the legal restriction on traditionally Democratic states' concealed firearms law. 56,000 residents in the state of 38 million currently have concealed weapons permits. The 9th U.S. District Court of Appeals ruled that carrying handguns was a violation of the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees America's right to bear arms. Gun rights advocates praised the ruling. Yeah, I don't think it says carrying it. It's supposed to be not carrying it. So much for this press outfit. Who is this press outfit? RT. I don't know what they were thinking there. All right. Owner of a South Carolina pub insults gun owners across America with an outrageous sign. Basically, he said, no concealed weapons allowed. If you are such a loser that you feel you need to carry a gun with you, then when you go out, I do not want you in our business, douchebag. Yes, douchebag. He is actually he has a concealed weapon. He just does not believe that the individual should be out in the public. Let me see if he gets that sign up there. In the public with a concealed weapon, where they could mistakenly get carried away, get angry, shoot somebody, do something careless, and he doesn't want that in his bar. It's causing some controversy there. People feel, hey, wait, I got a concealed weapon permit. I'm allowed to carry this in the state. Why are you trying to take away my right? If I come into your establishment, the individual says, it's a private establishment. Make it simple. You just don't have to come into it. Let's see. This one is imprisoned climate change deniers. Let's go ahead and check that out. This is a controversial issue. Many people believe that we are going through a climate change. Al Gore pushes that a lot. I don't know. I don't think we're going through a climate change. If this winter is anything, I can tell you we're definitely not heating up. It's cooling off right now, which is what they're saying, that the world is heating up. All the icebergs are melting. Let's see if we got a commercial here. Nope. Okay, let's listen to Frank on this.
I'd like to make 5 points to you about Americans' perception of the environment in this year, 2014. First of all, Americans clearly are paying attention to the temperature. We've asked Americans each of the last 3 years, have the temperatures been warmer or colder than usual? And for 2012 and 2013, Americans certainly tilted towards saying it had been warmer than usual. This year, a complete turnaround. 66% of Americans say the temperature has been colder this year than usual. So clearly Americans are aware of the fact that this has been a cold winter. Not all Americans, of course, concerned about how cold it is. Look at the differences by region in front of you there. Out in the West, only a quarter say it's been colder than usual. But in the East and Midwest, we've got almost 9 out of 10 residents who say it's colder than usual. Second point, Americans do not believe that the colder than usual temperatures are due to global warming. At least they tilt away from that. We gave them the choice, those who said it had been colder. Is this global warming, climate change, or is it normal variations in the temperature? You see the numbers there in front of you, 19 to 46. Americans say it is normal variations rather than climate change or global warming. We asked the same question about those who said it was getting warmer than usual, and this was a couple of years ago, and we found the same idea. Even when we used the word warming, more Americans said it was normal than due to global warming. So these temperature variations, my point is here, are not perceived by Americans as being global warming. They're seen by more Americans as being normal variations. Point 3, everything's political. Look at the differences there. Republicans totally reject the idea that the colder temperatures are due to global warming, climate change. Democrats tilt in the direction of saying, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. They split about equally, but clearly different than Republicans. Point 4, what about the drought? Well, you know, although there's huge discussion about the drought out in California and the problems it's causing, the perception that there is a drought in your area is actually lower now in 2014 than it has been at points in the past. See, some previous times we've asked this. Back in 1999, half of Americans said there was a drought in their area. This year, that's just 25%. Of course, 65% of residents out in the West say there's a drought. So clearly this is very localized out in the western states. Same question, my 5th point here, we asked those who said there was a drought due to global warming or normal variations in rainfall. And again, you find the tilt is to saying the drought is due to normal variations rather than global warming. Bottom line here is Americans are aware of the changes out there in the rainfall, in the temperature, but on an average basis, Americans are less likely to say that's due to climate change or global warming.
All right, so many Americans are not buying into this whole global warming thing that Al Gore and many Democrats, and there are Republicans that are pushing it too. So why did the White House, why are they making global climate change one of their top priorities for Americans? Obama administration is pushing forward on its fight against global warming in a geeky fashion. The White House on Wednesday announced an initiative to provide private companies and local governments better access to already available public climate data. The idea is that with the localized data, they can help the public understand the risks they face, especially in the coastal areas with flooding, which is a big issue. Companies will hold brainstorming sessions with computer programmers aimed at designing new apps on disaster risk. Administration has made more of an effort to connect global warming to its effect on people, especially extreme weather and disasters. Federal government plans a clearinghouse website for climate change called climate.data.gov. Great to see that we're spending all this money on an initiative that is really not an issue. Nuclear option, EPA, hypocrites bully farmer while polluting the Potomac. If a man's home is his castle, then his land is his kingdom. Trespassing across them becomes a legitimate matter of government concern. This involves a farmer. He had a spring out back. He decided to route it in and create a little pond in his yard. This is Andy Johnson. He's a welder in Wyoming. Wildlife and ducks and geese and such passed through this little pass that he made. Well, the EPA came in and said, showing their absolute power and acting like a typical bureaucratic government, said that Mr. Johnson and his family are in violation of federal law and threatened to bankrupt them. They said the EPA thugs ordered that the Johnsons to destroy the pond they built and threatened to fine them $75,000 a day if they did not adhere to the EPA's demands. Whenever it rains in a federal city, the sewage treatment plant cannot handle they go into talk about an EPA. Now, I did not know this. The EPA lists on its website how much water and energy it should save, but they don't mention the fact that exactly how many gallons of completely untreated wastewater the agency's 5,000 employees flush directly into the Potomac River. Whenever it rains in your federal city, the sewage treatment plant cannot handle the flood and storm runoff and sewage at the same time. So dumps a couple billion gallons of completely untreated sewage in the Anacostia and Potomac rivers, which flow into the Chesapeake Bay. How is that for dirty polluters? What do you think about that, folks? Yeah, I guess what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Okay, Fukushima. This is just a real quick one. This is my environmental issue, if you haven't caught on to that. The environmental section of this newscast or news talk show, which we're doing very little talking since nobody's calling all this week. 941-584-4874. Since I came back on the line, nobody's calling the number. Treatment of radioactive water in Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant might be indefinitely suspended because they found a malfunction with their ALPS system, which was not purifying the water as they had thought. Not good. Let's see. Clean up a major toxic waste sites. Inefficient, unaccountable shell game. Energy-intensive cleanup efforts at toxic waste sites in the U.S. government's Superfund program ultimately amount to a shell game. Poisonous materials are constantly shuffled between treatment plants, all harmful waste multiples with each step. Tracking noxious materials is basically futile. A new report from the Center for Investigating Reporting in The Guardian found that modern processes of rehabbing toxic sites is costly, inefficient, and waste begets waste. And that's with those Superfund cleanup sites. Chemtrails, nobody really buys in. I buy into it. A lot of government officials have come out and bought into it and say, yeah, it is out there. This is about a aircraft, and I think I actually have footage of this. Let's see, environment, chemtrails. Here we go. This is basically a FedEx aircraft was on a dangerous collision heading with what appears to be a chemtrail tanker's vertical separation under 2,000 feet. Below is the video footage taken by the Federal Express commercial airline flight. It's obvious that the aircraft, let me expand it. Okay, it's collision course with the two chemtrail tankers. The tankers did not appear on the FedEx aircraft avoidance system, meaning basically that they were ghost planes. Tankers were operating at civilian altitude with transponders off. The control tower had no idea the Air Force tankers even existed on the radar. So here's the picture. Wow, that is pretty close. Here comes another one. What are they spraying, folks? It's always interesting, you know, again, many government officials have come out and said this is accurate. It does happen. My local mayor here was a air traffic control tower guy. He said that they used to spray the aluminum and everything to try to scramble, confuse radar so that they couldn't see the planes, and it would cause havoc with the commercial flights that were flying in, I think he said, into Tampa. Also, Fukushima, back to that. They're hiring a bunch of unskilled and destitute workers to help clean up the radiation leak there at Fukushima. They're doing it because the high level of health issues due to the exposure with radiation. Then we're to cover that. See, I'm going to knock out this whole list, I think, folks. Okay. Gates, the Common Core guy. Yes, he's back in the news. This is on privacy issues. Gates Foundation is promoting a system that would track the careers of college graduates long after they receive their degrees, attacking the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities for promoting laws that prevent up-close surveillance of students by government. The study, titled College Blackout, argues that proposed systems, the Students United Recording System, would allow a more nuanced approach to studying the value of higher education. This requires knowing the life story of every student and tracking them nonstop. You can read more about that at Breitbart. It's an interesting story. The three main arguments that the Gates Foundation paper process proposes are that such private information is already in possession of the government, just distributed among a number of federal departments, that the National Association of Independent Colleges and Universities opposes the system, and that the benefit of having a better feel for performance of schools outweighs the privacy issue at hand. Gotta love that guy, right? Let's see, what's this? Privacy, let me see where I'm at. Okay. This is my license plate reader, so let's go into this. I think I got a news story. I've been harping on license plate reading for a while on my show. I'm not a huge fan of it, and basically what happened in LA and several other places is they have these license readers, and LA basically they came in and said, look, what you're doing when we're doing this.
Vigilance locate analysis
Let's
groups
listen to
LPR
it.
detections around addresses, tells you how many visits these addresses have been made by an LPR-equipped vehicle, tells you how many times a suspect vehicle has been seen at each location, tells you if the suspect is more likely to be seen during the day or night, tells you the most recent and most popular locations, provides you with an interactive and chronological map view, and generates a simple locator score for each address. Quite simply, locate analysis saves you countless man-hours and allows you to focus your efforts on locations most likely to generate results. In this fictional example, we'll consider a known transient that is being sought after in connection with a series of armed robberies. To begin, go to Learn and enter your system credentials.
Let's see if I can fast forward this a little bit.
Now, click on the Locate Analysis icon. Notice in this example, we have 18 locations and 1,258 detections of a specific vehicle. Notice that the first two locations are reserved for best public records address.
I just wanted to show you the potential, you know, picture the software so you can see basically what they can do. Basically, these license plate readers can read wherever you've been at, and you lose a lot of your privacy. The video from Vigilant Solutions shows how its system builds a comprehensive dossier on a person simply by capturing or inputting their license plate information. Please have access to the database, as do government agencies, such as the Department of Homeland Security. Without an officer targeting a specific vehicle and without any level of criminal suspicion, the group urges that basically what they're saying is that everyone's a suspect out there, especially in LA. They came out and said everyone's a suspect. The Washington Post reported that the Department of Homeland Security revealed via a federal business opportunity solicitation that it was set to activate a national license tracking system that will be shared with law enforcement. Let's see, DHS wasn't planning to create a national license plate tracking database because several already exist. They don't have to go out there and do it. There's several out there. If you're new to the show, I basically introduced these trackers. I've covered it a few times. Anyone has access to it. You just don't. It's not just the police. Like I said, it's government agencies and even commercial entities. I think one of my stories covered a commercial entity that was out there getting all the data and then selling it and sharing it with the police. They would hire people to sit in cars and just sit out there with readers all day long. In LA, I don't have the story. I thought I printed it where they think everybody's a suspect, basically. Everyone's a suspect, so we can go ahead and take all these licenses and just query all this data, and we have it there in case there's ever an issue, which I'm sure many of you would not agree with. Syrian Electronic Army hackers have reportedly obtained documents that reveal how much money the FBI pays Microsoft each time agents try to obtain a view of individual customer communication information. This is the same group. They've hacked several computers before. In 2012, for instance, and they go into talking about exactly what they have found out. In 2012, Microsoft emailed DITU a PDF invoice for $145,000, broke down to $100 per request for information. In August of 2013, Microsoft allegedly emailed a similar invoice at the same time for $352,000. The latest invoice was in November of 2013 for $281,000. What these documents clearly show us is that the government is going in there and collecting data, and that they're doing it at a high rate. It's not just a once in a while thing. At $100 per request, you got $352,000. They're putting in a lot of requests. Microsoft says, hey, we know about this regarding law enforcement requests. There's nothing unusual here, said a spokesperson, Valentina Palladino. Whoa. So it's very normal, very common. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to go through this and hit stuff that I wanted to cover before the end of the show. Let's see. Barack Obama to meet again with CEOs and about NSA. He will include the tech CEOs on Friday, basically talking to them about a game plan moving forward in regards to data. He's invited groups like Google, Facebook, and Yahoo. The Yahoo CEO, Marissa Mayer, said she cannot make it because it was too short of a notice. The president soon will announce the future of the phone metadata program, as he promised in a January speech while on the Hill. Okay. GPS, student GPS tracking program halted in some Texas schools. That's right. They were tracking kids. And basically it says schools in Austin, Texas have declined to renew their contract for a controversial program in which students had chronic attendance issues were monitored by GPS. In 2010, several Texas schools began singling out students who often were late to class or skipped school and sending them to a truancy court, where a judge would rule that they had to wear these GPS units. Since then, the truancy court spectacle has been dropped. District now targets students who were on the verge of going to court. A full swing, about 1,000 Austin students in 9 different schools were being monitored 24/7. Yes, you heard it, 24/7. 24/7, the school is monitoring their child. Like tagged animals, reportedly once increased attendance by a paltry 2%. So yes, an increased attendance by a paltry 2%. It's conditioning these people to get used to tracking them. And what about some privacy here, folks? What kind of parents are buying into it? Now, these are ones, remember, the judge was removed. There's no more court order. So they're getting individuals prior to needing a court order, and they're doing this. While this may come off as a mild victory in the name of privacy and against the surveillance school that the school dropped it, there's still a ton of other schools out there that are participating in the program. How about laptops? In 2010, we highlighted how laptops issued out of Philadelphia School District to 1,800 students were loaded with software that would transmit their audio and video back to school officials. Andrea Hernandez, a San Antonio high school student who made a bold decision to refuse wearing a mandated RFID tracking badge on the grounds that it violated her privacy and right to religious freedom. So why do they want to track all these people? And I can't blame them. I wouldn't want to be tracked like that. How about instead of spending all this money tracking us, the government, how about guarding your software? The new Chinese stealth fighter jet design includes details obtained from a Chinese cyber spying operation conducted 7 years ago against the F-35 Lightning. Dubbed Operation Byzantine Hades by U.S. targeted governments as well as the U.S. industry. And basically, China came in and they targeted our systems, our software systems, our computers, went in there and took all the information. One thing I didn't talk about, and it's on that internet again, is everybody know we're giving up control, the last bastion of control of the internet. I heard it again today on a show where a lot of people were worried that right now we're in a good place. America can control it. They're a good buffer. When we give it up, China could come in and control it. Russia could control it. A company like Google could come in and control it. There's no road direction on how it's going to be handled. So it's scaring a lot of people. It's scaring a lot of people that are fearing that their freedom of speech will be violated. If a lot of countries, if China or Russia get on it, and these protests you see out in the United States and Italy and a lot of countries will be restricted because these totalitarian governments obviously don't want the general public to see that kind of stuff happening in their communities. Pentagon rolls out DARPA plans to implant chips in soldiers' brains. That's a cool picture. Where is it? Right there. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. All right. Defense Advanced Research Projects. DARPA has been awarded the task of creating a black box for your brain through its Defense Science Department. Microchip brain implant will record your every moment and make it possible to obtain information of your final thoughts. The University of Utah has already developed a similar chip. The brain chip delivers signals from external sources directly into the brain for interpretation. MIT touts that they can now implant memories into your brain. How many people have heard about this? I haven't heard about it. Didn't know about it. Never heard major media talk about it. Again, this show is all about getting that alternative media to you, getting media that you don't hear from major media out to you, getting you a new perspective. Not saying it's the right perspective, not saying it's the wrong perspective. It's a different perspective that you can go out and look at these different views, these different situations, these different news articles from another viewpoint, so that you're not just some sheep that's listening to the propaganda straight from MSNBC. You're looking from several viewpoints. Pentagon, robots may replace 1/4 of U.S. combat soldiers. And there's a video on this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save this for next week because it's a pretty cool concept. Not cool. I mean, I don't know if I like the idea of replacing the soldiers. I'm not a huge fan of that, but I like the idea of less soldiers dying because we're sending them into war situations. I'd rather send a drone. Let's see. Washington Post story declaring cancellation of national license plate database. This is that LA story. LA have attempted to justify the automatic license plate reader surveillance program by claiming that every single car in the city is part of a criminal investigation. The EEF recently acquired documents under the FOIA Act that show the police department and sheriff department in LA argued that all license plates are investigatory. So what do you think about that, folks? Do you still want to trust this license plate readers? Everybody's a suspect. All right. Officers, this is classic. I'm going to cover that actually next week because I got a video with it. And let's see. How about this? Martial law cannot be far away now. Massive car-to-car warrantless searches in D.C. And they just talk about the D.C. police were looking for an individual that had escaped. I think he robbed a bank, and they were going car to car without a warrant. I understand the perspective from the cops where you got to find this guy and you got to search the cars. But then I understand the perspective of the individuals where you're coming in without a warrant and searching my car. When I did nothing wrong, there's nothing to lead you to believe that there was a crime committed in my vehicle. Peer review on fluoride. Let's see what time we have here. Oh, we're cruising along. I only got 8 minutes. Mainstream Science Journal adds fluoride to a running list of neurotoxins. Fluoride is one of the most powerful chemicals in existence and is a daily part of life for most people in the Western world. Carcinogenic waste product of aluminum is in it. It's the main ingredient. Fluoride is the main ingredient in rat poisoning, nerve gas, and Prozac. Recent peer-reviewed medical journal has now added 6 additional substances to its classifications of neurotoxins, and one of them is fluoride. You know, Harvard did a study, said fluoride's bad for you. Now you got this medical journal saying it, but still you'll have people that think you're a freak if you even come close to mentioning that it's not good for you. Let's see, we'll save those ones. I'm cruising right through this stuff. We'll save that. GOP win the Senate this November. David Jolly's victory in March. The special election in Florida has an early indicator that GOP take over the Senate in November. I don't agree with that. I don't think Jolly was a, hey, let's fight Obamacare. I just think that his sink ran a bad campaign. Washington Post, ABC News poll released on March 4th indicated that when registered voters were asked if an election for U.S. Senate were being held in your state today, would you vote Democrat or Republican? A very slim plurality of overall respondents chose the Democrat candidate. 36 Senate seats will be decided in 2014, 21 of which are currently held by Democrats, 15 currently held by Republicans. Republicans need to pick up basically 6 seats. Republicans have 2 vulnerable seats down there. A lot of the Democrats are running from Obama now. They're like, it's funny. It's similar to how they ran away from Clinton when his term was ending. We'll just cover that next week. It's Friday. We want to cut it early. I have a major headache, hence why my show probably wasn't up to speed today. This headache's just killing me. I'm not sure. I think it's because I got up at 2 in the morning with my brain going 100 miles an hour about different things. So again, sponsors, if you like a sponsorship, not only do you get your products, your services sponsored on this show, you get it also sponsored on my Facebook pages locally that benefits a lot of people. I do have a Facebook page with like 320,000 fans that I can post on that I just generally put the show on. I don't really post too much on it. It's called My Parents. I can't even remember what the name of it. My Parents Did Something. Hopefully today you were educated. You were given a different perspective of different news and concepts and philosophies and all that good stuff. You were inspired to stand up and do something, either at the city, local level, or just going out in life and achieving your objectives. And that you're going to go out and make change happen for the positive. So this has been another worldwide TVSN Minor Threat production. And that's it for me for the weekend. It looks like I have no work except for researching for Monday's show. And I'm out of here. I'm going to go out and get some pizza and enjoy the rest of my night. So everybody have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.